precious banter.
Banter time.
Banter time. Hello.
Hey everybody, welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. I'm Jerrica.
And I'm Lia.
So we were talking about the book already.
Last things. We got into it already. It's is it Jacqueline or Jacqueline?
I would say Jacqueline, but that's
Jacqueline.
Because I have my French-Canadian roots.
Yeah. Either Jacqueline or Jacqueline West has written this book called Last Things that we have read for Spooktober. I thought it was going to be spookier. I was a little bit waiting for it to become spookier.
But I appreciate the level of spookiness. I mean, also I was like predicting a lot of like hauntings and this and that happening, which didn't, but it made it more of a thriller than a horror, which is totally 1000% fine with me.
I think if I would have read it, because I listened to it, if I would have read it, I might have found it spookier.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I read more into, when I listen to someone else, it's like I'm listening and, I'm there, but when I'm reading, I'm like, get really immersed, and then I'm like, oh, this is so scary, the woods have eyes, whatever. But when I'm listening and she's like, the woods had eyes, I'm like, okay. It did. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because her voice was also so nice.
Yeah.
The narrator.
Yes. Two narrators.
Yeah, two narrators. They go back and forth.
One for Thea and one for Anders. Mm-hmm. And they were both good. I both liked them. They were very good narrators. And I liked Anders. He was my kind of tortured...
What? I was like, this guy is
so insecure.
Annoying.
He is so insecure. Seriously, like, all of his... putting on his rock star face, not trusting anything because it all came for the music. It's like
mood. He is so mood.
And he was like, she only loves me for the music, and I'm like, of course she only loves you for the music. Like, she might love you for yourself too if you give her a chance. But she discovered you for the music, and it's like this whole like, oh, she doesn't like me for me. It's only this, and I'm like. It's always like this, though, right? Because when we first meet people, we're like, I like him because of his eyes, or because of his butt, or because of his abs, or whatever, Like, there's always something. The hair.
It goes superficial first. Inky black hair. Good luck.
Is the reason why I love him. And then you get to know each other, and then you either go, I don't love him anymore. Look, he had a terrible personality. Exactly. Or, I do really love him because he's also sweet and kind,
Yes, well...
And Anders, at the end of the day, he was kind of sweet and kind, because...
he was a good person.
Yeah.
Like, overall.
Yeah.
But he was also very mood, very emo, very annoying. Yeah. And like, so much woe is me.
He made so many decisions without his friends, like his band. Yeah. He was like, look, we're not going to take any money. And like, even being offered, like, clearly struggling not maybe his friends, but his family. And like, he could have taken a little bit of payment. But it's like he always knew throughout the whole thing that if he took anything else, he would be in even deeper. Like, it was kind of, do you know what I'm saying? It was like... Well, maybe we should super summarize before we jump into the details. Do you have a super summary?
Not that I have written down, but I suppose we could say that this book is about an emo rock band boy who has a stalker / mysterious person that is attaching herself to him, and her name is Thea. Throughout the book, we don't know what's going on.
No.
For a long
I thought so badly of Thea. I thought so badly of Thea. And then last 3 pages, everything happens.
Everything happens. There you go. Super summary.
All right. But basically, Anders is the frontman of a band, and he's exceptionally good at playing the guitar. His voice is hypnotic, and they literally fill this coffee house venue, which again I've lost the name of. I forgot the name last time we talked about this too, and then it's called it's not Last Stop, it's like Crow's Nest. Crow's Nest is the one. Yeah. Crow's Nest, which is like a coffee shop. And they play every Friday night, and they literally fill it to the point where they're now being offered to play on Saturdays as well. He doesn't want any money for it, and every time the owners of Crow's Nest offers him money, he says no, because him and his bandmates had agreed to not do music professionally, I guess, until after they graduate. But then he's also been like approached by A&R people from record companies trying to offer him a record deal or to sign him. It's not quite clear if they want the band. The last one we know for sure she did not want the band, but earlier he's been approached, and it's not clear if they want just him or the band too. And he's always turning all of this down. He turns down any help, and his band is getting quite frustrated with him. And also he's very close to his guitar teacher, Flynn. Yeah. Who seems to be pushing him in the direction of signing record deals of this and helping him play and all of this and that. And Flynn seemed to have had quite a wild life earlier. But now he's like a guitar person, like teacher in whatever, middle of nowhere, Michigan. No, Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah. And then we flashes back occasionally to this first interview kind of thing that he did when he was 16, when they had like a little crowd, and this journalist came to interview them, and he asks him what is it he wants. Like, they go into the woods for some reason, which don't go into the woods, stay out of the freaking forest, man. Especially with strange men you don't know. Really, stay out of the woods, people. This is a PSA.
I was gonna say,
stay out of the woods. Okay. And he goes in and he talks to this, and this guy asks him, like, what do you want? Like, what would you give anything for? And he's basically like, I just want to be really good at music. And then this journalist just gives him a brand new guitar, and he tries not to take it, but really he really wants it, so he ends up taking the guitar. And this is like the beginning of the whole thing, where he technically is making a deal with the devil, but it's not quite the devil. It's more like it's the dark forces of the forest kind of thing. Yeah. And they can give him anything he wants, but then he has to give something in return. And he's been refusing to give this in return. This is what he's fighting, and this is why he's so tortured. And even the girl, Frankie Lind, who's she's got a crush on him, like she likes him. He won't really go there because he thinks it's too good to be true. And he's wary of things that are too good to be true, I think. Yeah. Kind of like he knows. And then Thea, she's like something. We still don't know what she is. She's witchy ish. Yeah. And her grandma, or her aunt, her Aunt May. Yeah. She has visions, so she dreams and she can kind of see the future. And she helps people, but people get like wary of this because it's, hard to explain. It's the spooky stuff, like stay out of the forest kind of. But yeah, she will know that bad shit will happen to you in the forest.
But Thea knows. Thea knows the whole time.
And then she keeps an eye on Anders because she feels like she's tasked with protecting him. But then she kidnaps Frankie, and this is where I went like, I'm not sure I like Thea anymore. And then she's all like, it's the little one that struggles the most, and she's all scratched up. And I'm like, I'm definitely not sure I like Thea anymore. Like, I was kind of on board with Thea there for a bit. And then now she's keeping Frankie in like a underground wood cellar, whatever. It's not good. She's got her tied up and stuff. And she's like, I talked to her a lot and explained why I'm doing this. I'm like, yeah, it would take a lot of explaining, because I was like, oh, I understand why you kidnapped me. Now it's to protect Anders. But it's all to protect Anders.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's all these dark forces of the forest. They're basically trying, because he won't sign the record deal with this lady who's not quite a lady. They're threatening to take everything that he loves away from him. So they want to take his music, they want to take his family, they want to take Frankie, they want to take his band and his cat. And then and Thea finds the cat, and then she helps him get his family back. But it's like the creepy when they're in the woods and he looks up in the tree and he sees them hanging, all of them.
Hanging in a tree is definitely the spookiest thing I can think of. Yeah. No thanks.
No, thank you. And his friends are really turned against Thea. They think it's her. They figure out that she's kidnapped Frankie, which she has.
She did, yeah.
Yeah, she did do that. So they're like, well, she's bad news. But Anders is not so sure, because Thea's kind of been good to him. But he doubts her too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would too. But I mean... And then at the end of it, he burns his hand. So basically prevents himself from playing music. And therefore the dark forces will not want him anymore, because he cannot do the thing he's good at. And therefore...
The end.
The end. Yeah. I guess if it's not good for them to use,
no,
then they don't want him anymore.
There's nothing in return, so they're not going to give him anything.
Yeah, that was a long summary.
That was the longest. That was definitely much longer than mine.
Yeah.
And it showed the listeners and readers all about how everything happened in the end.
Yeah. So, did you take any notes in this book? Because I was trying to take notes, and my notes are really like, Anders has made some kind of deal, and now he keeps getting everything he wants, but he's afraid to take it. Mm-hmm. Many Scandinavian names.
Yeah.
Thea is a witch.
Yeah.
And Thea is creepy. I don't know what to make of her. She's protective of Anders. She sees the dark things in the woods, but what she did to Frankie? Awful. Yeah. These are literally all of my notes.
I mean, they summarize the whole book, so there you go. I didn't write notes, but because I was listening to it, so I made like little mental notes, I suppose, throughout. And I was like, okay, I don't like this Anders guy. And then it was, okay, Thea is a quite interesting character. I thought she was a witch, but then I thought she was like a witch that was like some servant of the dark forces.
She's fast, like she has all these superpowers.
She has a ton of superpowers, right? Yeah. So then of course I thought like then the woods was like the devil or something like doing the devil's deeds, and they wanted a soul in return, which is very devilly.
But was it his soul that they wanted? Like, they keep talking about it, and they're like, when he says, what do they want? My soul. And Flynn just laughs at him. Like, I felt like this was a very visual book. Like, I think this would have made for a super awesome, creepy 1.5 hour movie. You know,
totally good movie. Totally good movie.
Thea with her bright blonde
because then it's fine that everything happens at the end.
Her blue bicycle that she goes like faster than cars on. Like,
that would be cool to see.
And the stuff in the woods where the shadows moves when they should not. And
the description in this book, in comparison to her last book, was like a breath of fresh air. There was so vivid. You saw the entire world was really well described.
Yes, super visual. It would have made for a great movie, I think.
Yeah, I could see this being like even a modern film that kids would like.
Oh, for sure. And like Anders being like the only kid without a smartphone also. So he has to use the computer at his friend's house to read the article, which just praises him. But in a way, I liked that he was reluctant to take everything that was coming to him. I think this is why I liked him, because it's more like, it is too good to be true. I should be wary of grabbing this. Like, I am getting everything I want. It is too good to be true. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, if you get everything you want, it is probably too good to be true. Like, you should be wary of this, just like you should stay out of the forest. Especially with strange old men.
Strange old men. Just don't go where they go.
And then Flynn, the way he's like, he's so mean, the guitar teacher, because he's so kind and supportive the whole way. And then when Anders is really struggling with this, like, he's just like, nah, you should just cut off your finger, man. Make sure you use all your strumming hands so you can still play the guitar, because they need something back, and you're getting everything you want. What the frick do you have to complain about? And it's like, yeah, but you shouldn't sell your soul to the devil for fame. This doesn't seem like a good trade.
No. Lots of people have done it in other books, though.
For sure. Is it a good trade ever?
I'm not so sure. You have to believe in a soul. I think the biggest part about it is that a ton of people don't.
Fair enough.
I do. So I'm like, no, I'm going to keep this because I have to have it for my next life and my next life and my next life.
And I mean, I would do it just for, in case if I didn't believe in a soul, what if I was wrong? Then I'm gonna regret that shit for a long time. It's like we had like christening services for our children. Like, we're not religious in my family, but my husband is raised Catholic, and he was like, look, limbo. I don't know if it's real, but let's just make sure, okay?
I like
because. What if we're wrong? Like, it's better to have done it and then it was unnecessary than to just not do it.
One of our members of the studio is a priest, and she said to me, now that all the restrictions are loosening up, once you have your third kid, we'll just take them all at once and baptize all 3 of them. And I was like, I need to baptize my kids? And she's like, yeah, you don't want them going to this middle place forever. And I was like, Oh, this is not something I considered because it's not something I truly like full on believe
but that's
in.
Just my husband. He was
but
all
I see what JF is meaning. Like this, just better safe than sorry.
For sure.
Yeah. So no selling souls and christening
stay out of
babies. And stay out of the
forest, man. Don't sell your soul. Better safe than sorry, and stay out of the forest. We're good. And we're moving on. So I would say, just to finalize, Lost Things by Jacqueline West.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be spookier. I think it would have probably been spookier if I would have read it and not listened to it.
Okay.
But I definitely liked it, and I would recommend. So, moving on, we are being crafty this week.
I know.
Because we have book club, and we had to read a book for book club, so we decided to two birds, one stone it.
Here we are.
A book for book club
book this week on the pod.
For the pod, yes. And the book that was chosen by our lovely friend, Anita, is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. And I took the time to actually read the forewords for this, which was really interesting because she explains all the Russian, like the use of language and the choices she has made. So I was actually in there to begin with. This book has no less than 3 covers. I think the one I have in the book I read is this one, I believe.
That's kind of cool. I do not have that cover, but this cover is really funky.
And this is it's got like a ribbon that's almost like a road. Where it says, The Bear and the Nightingale, beware the evil in the woods. And then it has all these
jungly kind of animals, plants, flowers.
So this one's cool. There's a knife there, it's a bones. This is a skulls. There's also sort of hidden gems and treasures, I think, in this
I like that
cover.
in covers.
This feels more like a children's book, though.
I was just going to say, this looks like a more juvenile.
Yeah. If I would have seen this, I would have thought children's book. And then it's the other one, the one that is the more common, I think, cover. Yeah. And it's just the starry sky with a flower with a nightingale, and we see the little town at the bottom.
Yeah. And it's winter.
I mean, I chose this book based on this cover. When Anita gave us the options, this was the cover she showed us. So I was like, yes, I want that. That looks good. And then this one comes up a lot when I search for it. And it's kind of like got the title in this frame, and there's this warm hut in between the trees, and you can see the warmth kind of coming out of it, and there's a girl walking towards it.
Do you know what I would say? This cover is a Christmas story.
Yeah.
The cover before, I actually don't know what this book is going to be about. And the cover before is a children's book. So they're very different.
They are very
different. But this one with the banner, it's so Christmassy.
It is. So would you pick up this book based on, let's say, the children's cover?
For my kids, sure.
Yeah, would you read this for your kids though when you read the first 3 chapters? No, don't make that mistake again. You tried reading a book.
I tried, yeah.
The other, that Starry Night cover then, would you pick it up based on the cover?
I'd probably look at it if somebody suggested it, but if I just walked past it, I might not have given it a second look.
I would have probably picked it up anyways because I liked the title, The Bear and the Nightingale. Like this catches my attention because it feels like a fairy tale to me, and I like fairy tales.
I once picked up a book that was called The Dove and the
Serpent, or something like that?
No, there were 2 different birds. It was a dove and something else, that hawk or something like that, or eagle, doesn't matter. And remember I told you about this? It was like last winter I read it, and I'm like, they're actual birds.
Yeah. No,
I thought it was going to be like some sort of
like this, like the Nightingale.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nope, they were actual birds. Okay, good. And the Christmas cover.
No, I would not pick up the Christmas book.
No, I would not pick up the Christmas book either. I would think it's too Christian. Anyways, The Bear and the Nightingale. It's in Russia. We're in Russia.
Yeah.
We're in the olden days.
In olden days Russia, exactly.
Olden days, yeah. In the northern parts. We start with Marina and her 4 kids and her husband Pyotr. Yeah.
How do you pronounce this name? Pyotr. I was like, okay, I'm just going to guess that this is like Russian Peter.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Honestly, the names have really thrown me in this book because every person has at least 3 names because they have the actual name and then they have their nickname that everyone calls them, and then they have their super nickname that only family calls them when they love them. And one, I wrote one down, Alyosha.
Yeah.
He's also Lyoshka, or his actual name is Alexei.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then we had Nikolai, who's Kolya, and I'm like, not sure about this. All right. Anyways, so we're in...
That's very Russian. And I would say my friend who's Polish, she calls me Jerrica or Jerric.
Yeah.
And my name is Jerrica. Yeah. So there are so many different ways of...
I mean, we complained about the American nicknaming there with Robert and Bob and Richard and Dick. So, clearly nicknaming is terrible all around the world. We're just going to, to say that. But in Russian, it's a little bit hard to know who's who, and it took me a little while. Like I had to actually go back and try to keep track. But
that was a little confusing. I figured out who was based on their name of like who they were talking to and what the situation was. That was pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. But Pyotr is a wealthy man. He's like kind of like a leader of this
neighborhood
part of he's got a couple of towns. Like he's the leader of his people up north there. And Marina's mother was a special girl who rode alone into Moscow, and she had miracles done in her wake, and she caught the eye of the prince. And
Marina's mom.
And
Marina is married to Pyotr.
Pyotr. Marina is the child who was sent off north because her mother's gifts were not in line with the Christian faith. That was very much taking its grip on Russia at this point. Marina is pregnant with her 5th child, but she's a bit old and she's much too thin, and this pregnancy is dangerous for her. She insists that she will survive and she will see the baby born, and it will be a girl like her mother.
That with powers.
But she says, a girl like my mother, who is like my mother. And the girl is born in November, and her name is Vasilisa or Vasya or Vasoshka. It's a lot of names. Yeah. Vasilisa is her actual name. And Marina dies shortly after Vasilisa's birth. And it's Dunya who looks after the kids, and she was the one who looked after Marina when she was a kid too, so she's been with the family for a long time. And Vasilisa or Vasya is a bit wild. She knows the woods, and she scares her family when she doesn't come home. And she scares her family enough that her father decides that she needs a new mom. So he decides to go off and get her a stepmom.
She's like 7 at this point, right?
6, I think. Yeah. 6. So she goes into the woods. She finds a weird tree she's never seen. There's a man sleeping under the tree. She manages to get away from there. She comes back, but she's scared her family half to death. So they're going to get her a new mother.
Yeah.
So this is where I stopped.
Okay.
And I predict, because I have no freaking clue what's going to happen. Like, based on this, I was like, snow is going to happen? Like, it would be like Game of Thrones, winter's coming, because it's always freaking coming. They always turn out to be right in the end, those Starks, because winter is always coming.
And in the beginning of the book, there is a winter story about frost winter coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I predict that the stepmom will be wicked, and that Vasya will grow up to be beautiful, and that there will be adventure. And after that, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, I guess, at this point, because I have no freaking clue. What do you think is going to happen?
I read a little further along before I predicted. So when I read along, I read about her other brothers are now going to be wed off, and the father's also going to be wed off. And they go and they meet the prince guy.
Yeah, the Grand Prince.
The Grand Prince, and...
In Moscow.
And they're like, we have...
And he's a brother of Marina, right? Or something like that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think so. His father was the prince who married Marina's mom, and Marina was their kid, and then he's a cousin or something. He's connected to Marina.
He's connected to Marina. Yeah. And then, but who's Anna, his sister?
Anna is his sister.
Okay, so Anna's his sister, so Marina's not his sister. Marina is some other relative.
I think they may be like half sisters.
Because they were like, okay, if this Pyotr marries the...
Oh, was Anna? Anna is his daughter. Anna is his daughter.
Okay.
So Marina would have been her aunt.
Then he will have a close connection to the crown, and then his sons and his daughters will be more desirable as mates to other lands and countries and stuff like that. So that's where I ended up. I have no idea who they ended up marrying or anything like that at this point. And I just thought, wow, this was an info dump. This was so many, like, scenarios. Like, like history, names, everything to take in. It was like, okay, who's this? Who's that? Who's this? Who's that? In like 100 pages, it was just like a whirlwind, really, of information and story.
Felt like a history lesson and bits of it too. Like, then this person that married that person and they moved to this place.
Yeah. There's just so many people. Yeah. So when I stopped and I messaged you, I was like, I have no idea how to predict this.
And I sent you my prediction.
There's way too many people to predict what's going to happen.
So what do you think?
To each and every one of them.
No, stick with Vasya. She's clearly our main girl.
Yeah, she's our main girl, but the dad has something to do with it, with this Anna girl too. So I'm guessing that he marries this Anna lady, and that she, since they're calling her crazy, that she has some sort of magical powers, or she is some sort of special the way Marina's mom was, and maybe then we'll teach our main girl the way of this like witchy side of life. And then I'm guessing there's going to be a rise to queendom here, because we're going to have like female power uprising against all of these gazillion men all around them. Plus, Marina knew she had to have this baby because this baby was going to make a difference. So she's going to be making waves somewhere in some sort of royalty. Yep. That was the worst prediction I've ever made, but so it goes.
We'll see, I guess. We will see. There's only one way to find out, and that's to keep reading. And it's quite a long book, this one, and it's the first of a trilogy.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we'll do. We'll see how much we'll find out in this first book. Maybe it's going to be like that other book we read where I'm like, nothing's happening. Wow, there's a lot of things happening now. How am I going to wrap all of this up in 5 minutes?
I know.
They're not.
No, there's another book.
Yeah, there's another book.
So, wrap this up in 5 minutes.
We'll see. I mean, it wasn't like Last Things where they wrapped it all up in 5 minutes. It was great.
Last Things should have been a trilogy, because then they could have gone so much further into giving us answers.
But it would have been fun, I guess, with Last Things to have a trilogy with Thea.
Exactly.
Where she was, because she's a protector, so where she would go to find her new charge. But she also has, I forgot to say that, I love that he kisses her at the end.
Yeah, but weird.
Yeah, but it meant to be, because it's like, he feels this gratitude to her and all of this and that, and he's like, wants to do this because this is what she wants, but she's like, it's not for me, he's not for me, like I can't have him and I am bad, and like her inner monologue of like, I am bad at letting go of things. It's like, he is not for me, I have to tell myself, I'm just gonna keep this for a little bit, I am bad at letting go of things. It's like, I loved her. Like,
yeah, she's really cool. I like her
and then
too.
the kiss, and it's just like, it's such a perfect thank you to her, because it's exactly what she wants.
It is, yeah.
And he's doing it like, because he kind of knows this, because he kind of understands her in a way.
Yeah, but nothing is going to ever come out of it. No. And he's not even remotely interested in her in that way. So for me, it was like a little disjointed, like
kind of a little bit interested in her in that way.
In what way?
Yeah, in the romantic way. I was all about romance. I was like, ah, I like it, they're so sweet. I was predicting romance. I need to get something right here. So,
Did you predict romance? It's hardly romance.
I did predict that Thea and Anders was going to get together.
Okay, one last kiss.
I will claim the kiss, and it will live on in my memory forever until I forget it next week.
What was her name again? Kidding.
Thea. They all had Swedish names or Scandinavian names. I was all on board with this. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, we should keep reading, because it is a bit of a long one, this one. Not super long, but kind of longish. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye. We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia. The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify, and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading, and on Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'drathebereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.